Good evening. I'm back for night three of Once in a Blue Moon. Rissa Miller, and I'm going to read to you again my short story from A Grave Duet, a Halloween anthology that came out last year. I'm reading in honor of Summerween. So this week, as you tuck into your hopefully nice, cool home, I have a spooky story for you. The past two nights, we have been reading Once in a Blue Moon. It is a folk horror story. It is based in Ellicott City, Maryland, and it is based off the legend of the Patapsco Howler. My version of it, though, does twist a little bit. So let's just get into it. This is night three, and you can still find nights one and two on Facebook as well as on my YouTube channel. So let's get into Aslan and Devon's adventures. A hairy werewolf stood at the front door of the Mexican restaurant. This place, the biggest restaurant in Ellicott City's downtown, was hosting the Mathers welcome dinner. Aslan waited on the sidewalk for Devon, who wasn't returning her texts. They had closed the museum early, and he had been brimming with excitement. She sighed and watched other guests posing for selfies with the werewolf. Maybe she was getting ghosted. The irony made her smile. All afternoon, Devon had been telling her the ghost stories he'd learned on a recent haunted tour. Sadly, he had not mentioned Betsy Tyson or the cursed ones, but Aslan knew many ghosts beyond the scope of tourist programs. With a final glance at her phone, she decided Devon could join her whenever he arrived. She entered the cantina, and someone scanned her ticket, pointing out her table and the line to meet the Mathers. She decided on her table. The Mathers were bogged down. Aslan ordered a margarita just as someone sat down across from her. Dr. Hunter, what a pleasant surprise. Randall Jones, she said. She recoiled from him and then, realizing what she was doing, straightened her posture and forced a smile. Well, it's your big moment. Not exactly mine, he said and nodded toward the Mathers. They kind of have the moment. Yes, my intern is a big fan. He's supposed to meet me here tonight. He even bought their book to get autographs, Aslan said. Well, he'll be a bit. So I'll take this moment with you for myself, he replied, scooting his chair closer. Something turned in Aslan's gut. Jones seemed different. He looked completely the same and unremarkable in every way. It was a change in tone. Are you set up for Halloween in the park? She asked as her margarita arrived with a basket of chips and salsa. Absolutely. More than a dozen trail cams, all synced, all able to stream on the feed. He helped himself to a chip. There's literally no way the Howler won't get caught this year. Aslan noted that he hadn't asked to eat her chips. It was one of those small habits she found annoying in people, taking something without permission. It told her without a word that he considered himself entitled. Well, according to you, the Howler was filmed before, she mused. Well, that video was enough to get the Mathers involved, he said, crunching on yet another chip topped with her salsa. It's become quite the boon for our little town. Every business has been getting a Halloween glow-up, she said, trying to keep the conversation friendly, though she felt increasingly irritated. Might your mother be attending this evening? Jones asked, abruptly changing the topic, and now munching chips with his mouth open while he talked. No, I expect you won't get an interview from her, Aslan said smoothly. She'd spoken to her mother about staying out of the park on Halloween, but Deidre remained unconvinced of potential danger. Jones ate several more chips with salsa and then offered a sly, sideways smile. I found something extremely interesting at the Maryland Archives in Annapolis, he said, puffing himself up a bit. Maybe you would call it occult secrets? How interesting. So much occult history is word of mouth and gets lost over time, Aslan replied coolly. I found the rites fascinating, Aslan Hunter, and I can't wait to see what you think about it. Under the blue moon, Jones said, his grin wide. He stood and quickly left the table. Aslan tried to follow him, but he was swallowed into the crowd. She scanned the room. Servers were pushing through with drinks and food. People clamored to get books signed and take selfies with Nicole and Logan Mathers. Several folks were in costumes, mostly werewolves, but also ghosts and other monsters. Jones was nowhere to be seen. Neither was Devon. Her mind ticked. Did Jones know where Devon was? What did he say? He'll be a bit? What did that mean? And Aslan knew the story of the Patapsco Howler. She was the youngest in the bloodline after generations of her family in America. There was no ceremony, no rites, no ritual. The gene was passed from mothers to daughters. Next chapter. I'm in the bath, Aslan, her mother said from upstairs. Aslan could hear her without strain as she opened the front door. Supernatural senses were good for that. Sorry to show up like this, but I need your help, Aslan flopped into Deidre's pale green sofa, allowing her body to sink into the cushions as she pulled the old journal from her bag and laid it carefully on the coffee table. Oil paintings, some hundreds of years old, lined the walls of her mother's woodsy cottage. They were the legacy. Before anyone in their family was ever nicknamed the Patapsco Howler, these women knew the blue moons and experienced both the magic and the curse. It was power, but also fear, Aslan knew. Being such a creature was not romantic. They did not glitter or spread wisdom like movie monsters. They could sense real evil, though, and were the unwilling and uncelebrated guardians of an ancient line, holding to tradition with no choice in the matter. Aslan picked up a framed photo of her father. He died protecting them. The other men fancied themselves monster hunters out in the woods with a syringe of wolfsbane extract. What's on your mind? Her mother entered the living room, in her plush robe, hair swept up in a towel. Honestly, Dad at the moment, she said, placing the picture back on the table. Nothing like that will happen this weekend, Deidre said, sitting next to Aslan. We have plans A and B will be fine. Mom, Jones said something about how he found rights and was looking forward to the blue moon. Do you have any idea what he's talking about? Deidre paused, a flash of both confusion and concern crossing her amber eyes. She put her hand over her mouth. Surely not, Deidre said. I didn't even think that story was real. Aslan sat upright on the sofa, her full attention on her mother. What story? Aslan asked, as Deidre stood and poured a glass of brandy. We are protector spirits, as you know, gifted with great strength and certain other abilities, like how we perceive energetic presences. Deidre said, but many years ago, we actually had to, protect humans. From what? Aslan stood and took the glass her mom offered. She also needed a drink. That's the thing, Aslan. No one living in America ever had to do that job. We just had to remain hidden. Before we came here, in the old stories, we had to fight something or someone. We were actual protectors, Deidre said, pouring brandy for herself. Surely it must be this, the cursed ones, Aslan pointed to the old journal. Deidre's eyes lit up again. Where did you get that book? Aslan explained the strange appearance of the journal at the museum, and Deidre rushed out of the room towards the attic door. Within minutes, she appeared with a dusty plastic storage bin. I put these things away when your father died. I hadn't thought about them in years, she said, lifting the cover. Several other journals lay in neat stacks. Aslan picked one up, allowing her fingers to glide across the cover. She gazed at faces of her ancestors, all women, all who looked like her and her mother. Surely they would not have left their family line without some critical information, such as who the cursed ones might be. Well, I suspect Randall Jones is a crackpot, Aslan said. He's capitalizing on his family's tragedy to rub elbows with celebrities, so no matter what, he's a crackpot, Deidre said decisively. His family's tragedy was directly tied to them, specifically to her. Aslan saw them in the woods that night, guns in her father's face, accusing him of totally untrue things. She hadn't intended what came next, but she also felt no regret. Men who turned guns on an unarmed person trying to find his lost teenage daughter in the woods weren't good people. You're fixating on it again, That doesn't help us now, Aslan. We need to find the cursed ones in these books, Deidre said with a sigh. I know, Aslan snapped and opened a stiff, leather-bound journal. First, one gust of wind, then another, bounced around the room. The curtains swished, and both Aslan and Deidre put down their books to observe the arrival of the ghosts. There was no doubt in her mind this time when Betsy Tyson appeared and started to speak that the message must be received. Aslan pulled up her phone and tapped on the Mather's Ghost Voice app. She began to record as Betsy spoke, gesturing to her brooch, and then outside. The pages of the journal from the museum flipped open to a page Aslan had already tried to read. Time had faded the ink to almost nothing. A few words remained, but Betsy gestured largely towards an empty page. Only bloodline, ceased, and moontime were still legible in elegant scroll on the paper. And then the ghosts were gone. Did you record that? Deidre asked. Nodding, Aslan played it back. The app had not performed as she hoped, catching mostly static and only a few words, but among them they could hear clearly. Help the cursed one. Next chapter. Aslan hung up the phone with Devon's mother. The poor woman was worried sick, as was Aslan. The night of the Mathers party, Devon left the museum, texted his mom he was stopping by the gaming store on Main Street, but never arrived there, and never made it to the event with Aslan. He hadn't been home in 2 days. No one, not friends, family, or teachers, had heard from him. His mother had been going door to door with photographs, asking everyone for help. Since it was more than 24 hours, the police were involved in Devon's missing persons case. Aslan knew Devon wasn't the type to run away. He seemed content with his life. She'd seen no indication he was unhappy. In fact, he seemed elated about the upcoming weekend with the investigators and his new task doing social media at the museum. She rose from her desk and went to the area where he worked, a small desk by the gift shop. In the drawer, he had a spiral-bound notepad with ideas for social media posts, a few snack bars, some random charging cords, a bag of differently shaped dice, and a small bottle of aspirin. Oh, this is not going to be much help, she sighed. A light breeze ruffled the notebook pages. Did the ghosts want her to see something? Aslan picked up the notepad and looked at the front and back. Aside from the museum's branding, there was nothing. She opened it and began reading his plans for posts and short videos. They were all good ideas, combining display objects and offbeat history. She hoped Devon would return and execute these plans, but a sinking feeling told her he was in danger. Flipping through the remaining pages of the notebook, it seemed like there was nothing else when a page in the middle caught her eye. She turned back to see a drawing made in heavy, sloppy ink. It was the same symbol of the crescent moon and hash marks. It was slightly smudged and distinctly not Devon's work. His handwriting was concise and neat, with very light pressure. Gazing around the empty museum, she wished the ghost were a bit more forthcoming. I appreciate you helping me find this, but what does it mean? Can you help me with that? She asked the open space in front of her. A soft wind curled around her body and pulled her away from her desk toward the photography exhibit. This ghost touch was different. She knew the spirits by how their presences felt, the way they moved. She didn't know this one, and it certainly didn't have the anxious energy of Betsy Tyson. Aslan picked up her phone and flipped open the Mather's Ghost app. Her last recording yielded broken words and static, but Aslan was willing to give it another try. As she stepped behind the white curtains concealing the new display, 2 glass cases opened on their own. Aslan watched in awe as 2 prints in frames lifted into the air and floated in front of her. A gust of air came from behind her, and she heard a scrape across the floor. She looked down to see Devon's necklace rise from under a chair and hover just in front of her. According to the family's journals she went over with her mom, it was not a ghost amulet, as Devon believed, but the ancient magic he needed to stay human and not transition into a beast. The cursed ones were a parallel bloodline. She turned to the photos. The first image was Betsy Tyson as a grown woman with her husband, a man named James Carroll. They had 2 sons, and the older one wore the amulet as a pin on his jacket. The other image was one Aslan knew well. It was her great-grandparents. I see them, spirits, I do. But where is Devon? She asked, taking the photo of her grandparents from the air and holding it carefully against her chest. As if in reply, the necklace dropped to the ground. Next chapter. As Aslan walked into town for her coffee on Halloween morning, road closures indicated the festivities ahead, and folks were going about their usual routines dressed in costumes. She saw Dracula, the Addams Family, a poofy dinosaur, and several witches. She tapped her nails against her thigh as she waited to order. The sky was bright and clear, with no clouds in the forecast. Moonrise would happen at 9:13 p.m., while the town's parties were still going on. Though the parade was for sunset, around 6 p.m., she knew there would be lots of people, perhaps even kids for trick-or-treat on Main Street. From the looks of it, this would be an all-day party, and Aslan hoped the crowds would help cloak whatever might happen. When she got to the window to order, Devon's face greeted her. Missing posters were now in every shop. She couldn't shake the feeling that something awful was yet to happen to him. "I'll try the Haunted Fog Latte," she said, and swiped her card. Aslan couldn't get next to the tall plastic werewolf. There were folks in costumes taking selfie with the beast. She noticed 2 familiar faces seated near the back, Nicole and Logan Mathers. They probably wanted to have a quiet morning to themselves, but Aslan wasn't sure she'd get another chance to talk to them alone. "Good morning, Nicole and Logan. I'm sure you want some downtime, but I really hope to meet you. I'm Dr. Aslan Hunter, the director of the county museum," she said. The warm, genuine curiosity they projected on their shows seemed very real as she stood before them. They both smiled, shook her hand, and immediately Nicole mentioned they heard Devon was missing. "We're going to mention Devon on the live stream, see if we can get the word out and help find him," Logan said. "Here, please sit with us," Nicole said, offering a chair. "Thank you so much. That's really kind," Aslan said as she sat down, truly touched they would use their considerable platform to help Devon. "He's a huge fan of your work. I mean, terrified of ghosts, but he still watches your show faithfully. I know he and his friends had been planning a watch party tonight." Nicole touched Logan's arm and grew serious. "We need to mention him more than once tonight, and get some pictures of him on the shows," she said, and Logan agreed. "Absolutely, anything we can do to help," Logan said. "I appreciate it. You'd think with all the cameras set up all over town, someone would have seen something," Aslan said, gradually moving the topic toward what she really needed to know. "Yeah, Randall Jones. I assume you know him. He's gone all out on the tech," Logan said. "Have you hunted a werewolf before?" Aslan asked, taking a sip of her latte. They both shook their heads. "This is a different kind of investigation. We've tracked dogmen a few times, but we never found more than tufts of fur on a tree. Just little stuff that you can logic away," Nicole explained. "The Patapsco Howler has history in this region. The overlap of the Blue Moon tonight, the story of Randall Jones' father and brother. But wait, it was your dad too, wasn't it?" Logan asked, his expression full of empathy. "Oh, I'm so sorry, I totally forgot," said Nicole. "With the disappearance of your assistant too? Well, I'm so sorry, Dr. Hunter. You must be going through a lot." Aslan paused and took a long breath. It was a lot, just not what they thought. "To be clear, Dad's not a mystery. I remember that night. I was 16 and lost in Patapsco Woods," Aslan said quietly. "My dad already had heart trouble, and I never meant for him. He was looking for me. I'm the reason my father was in the park and died from a heart attack that night." As Nicole and Logan expressed their sympathies, Aslan decided to fully change gears, and she pulled out her phone. "This might be a funny question, but can you give me advice on how to use your Ghost app?" Aslan placed her phone on the table and opened the screen to the 2 recordings. "Oh, sure," Logan said and picked it up. "The real key with ghost voices is patience." He tapped the phone a few times, mumbling about resetting things, and then gentle static intermingled with a melodic voice. He broke the bindings. Blood knows blood. You must use the stone to protect him. The others, he is coming, cursed one. You are called now. A faraway female spoke through the app. Goosebumps rippled up Aslan's arms. That may be one of the best ghost recordings we've ever gotten, Nicole said after Logan played it back several times. What does it mean? Where did you get it? Logan asked. Aslan sat in silence. The recording of Betsy Tyson was from her mother's house. If she had known how to adjust the settings on the app, she would have heard it sooner. She knew the stone. Devon's necklace was in her pocket. She figured the blood was Devon's, or could it be hers? She wasn't sure about bindings. Possibility rushed through her mind. Would the rites give Jones power over Devon, or her mother? All three? Why hadn't any of this been recorded more specifically in the journals of her foremothers? Honestly, I'm not sure. I thought there was only static on there, Aslan replied, carefully sidestepping their reasonable questions. Can we try the other one as well? Logan swiped a few things on her screen, and a new voice was barely audible over the static. A young man pleading. Stop him. Use this. Stop him. Use this. It hurts. Stop him, said the phone. What is happening here? Nicole asked, her tone very serious. Cursed one? It hurts? Aslan glanced around the courtyard. Amazingly, no fans had spotted the Mathers to run over for selfies. She decided to just show them a bit of her hand. After all, no cameras were rolling. At your welcome dinner the other night, did Randall Jones mention anything to you about some sort of occult ritual? Aslan asked. Both of their faces registered true confusion. No, we barely saw him, and to be honest, he hasn't been communicating very well since we arrived, Nicole said. We have our own team here on the ground, so we've been going forward as planned, but he's definitely been MIA from the original agreement, Logan nodded. Unfortunately, he didn't share any details with me, but he mentioned some sort of rites during the blue moon tonight, which would mean it will happen during your live stream, Aslan said. And that is all we will read for tonight. I hope you're enjoying Once in a Blue Moon, the story of the Patapsco Howler as told by me, as imagined by me. And if you like this, you will love the other stories in A Grave Duet by authors Casey Fallon and Melissa Peterson Lewis. You can pick this up anywhere you buy books, but locally in Pennsylvania at the Nine Collective in Lancaster or Serpent's Key in Hanover. So tune in tomorrow night. It will be the fourth and final installment of Once in a Blue Moon. I wish you very sweet and not too spooky dreams.